When we figured out the name with that, we wanted to be simple and understandable to what kind of game is Shadow Soldiers. We choose that because it implies some elite or veteran soldiers who can handle the weapons, equipments, and who are fast and deadly on the battlefield. Abbreviation also sounds pretty unique, like S.o.S.
On the question of how did you come up with the name of the game, why Shadows of Soldiers, I was not around, nor were a few of the people who are currently on the developer team right now when the name was created. But in my eyes, the name stands for kind of like people who wanted to remember the game GRP. It kind of wants to symbolize that. It's Shadows of Soldiers kind of makes me think of it's a follow up to the game of GRP. We're following in the shadow of GRP. That's the way that I personally took it.
There were a lot of discussions about the name. The original name was Soldiers of Shadows. It didn't make sense to me. That's why I changed it to Shadows of Soldiers, because it made a lot more sense rather than Soldiers of Shadows. I'm not offending anyone, but yeah.
Yes, I would like to keep this game title. I already got some nice feedback about it. But of course, we'll discuss that with my dev team, as everything I also it could give a good storyline for that.
I personally think it's a good name and don't have any problem with it, and it represents what the game is, as I said in my first answer. But if it does change, we will just go along with it. But like I said, I have no problem with it.
Personally, keeping the name for the game for final release, I have no problem with whatsoever. I think it's honestly a very solid name and represents what the game means perfectly adequately. Um, of course, everything is subject to change, which, if the name does change, we'll just have to go with it. But for me right now, I'm absolutely fine with the name staying the way it is.
The game will have a very similar mechanics structure to GRP. It was one of my first things that I was focused on nailing first before anything else. Our goal is to try and make it similar, but overall a better and improved game. Better weapon balancing, more variety and customization for both weapons and characters, etc.
Well, I'm making the gameplay mechanics, like the movement, cover, camera system, and putting animations together. I want it to be a very unique game with its graphic, design, devices, gameplay and maps. Figuring out the new things not easy, but we will listen to the community. That's why S.o.S can be more than just another shooter game.
The game is going to be as similar to GRP from a mechanics standpoint as we can make it, because everyone who played GRP loved the mechanics. Although the cover system was glitchy at times, it was by far the best cover system I have ever had in any video game that had a cover system. Think of it more so as Overwatch. Everyone knows the game Overwatch, everyone loves the game Overwatch. Think of it as the game like Paladins. Paladins is a very, very, very similar game to Overwatch, just with small tweaks that people may or may not like more. In our case, since GRP was shut down in its entirety, our goal is to make the game similar and better in every aspect we can possibly make it. Better gun balancing, not pay to win, at least to the extremities that GRP was. Just make it overall a more enjoyable experience than GRP was.
It's not really a new third-person shooter. Well, it is if you've never played GRP. It will have a majority of the unique factors that GRP had, and we will try find ways to add more unique things to it. The dev team and I have talked about a lot of stuff that we could add, like adding a story mode, adding ladders, doors that you can open and close, but we are far from it. I wouldn't say far from it, but just like we're not there as of now. If we do decide to add them, it most likely will be after release. Maybe the little things like doors and ladders might come before it, but we are not sure at this point.
I hope I can add my ideas, but I will give some inspirations for the players and have a great time when they play with S.o.S. My next step is always in my head, for example how I and the other people play and enjoy it. And the best thing is, we can change or upgrade almost everything if it's not good, or I can find a better way to code it.
This is not simply the creation of a new third person shooter. It will keep a majority of the unique factors that GRP had to it, and hopefully we will find ways to add even more unique things to it. The talk of adding ladders and doors has been a thing that we've been considering doing, but again, we're not there yet by any means. And if that stuff comes, it comes. It might come after the release of the game, even. We don't know at this point. But for sure, it will be as unique as GRP was, which is why people loved the game GRP. As I said, we are trying to stick true to the mechanics of GRP, and because it was just such a unique game.
If all goes well and we get everything set up properly, then I hope to have the game fully completed, but if not, then I will keep on working on it till it is complete. But to be honest, I'm more focused on what the development is now rather than later.
Me personally, I do not oversee a lot of the development. I personally work on all the website management, everything that needs to get taken care of on the website. Demish and myself handle. I also am handling the pricing for when we do eventually migrate websites to something that is more business-like, and I will be managing hosting for the website, design for the website, because we do plan on using a WordPress design. It just seems to be the easiest thing to do for us. But for the 1 year development plan, it's looking promising from what I hear. Again, I'm not one of the main game developers, but from what they've told me, it is looking very promising.
It's quite difficult to say what will be in the future, because it's my first game, but my plan is having a great gameplay with the minimum stuff. It means we always move on the next step by step and trying to solve every problems to be sure it's working fine.
Now, on the topic of pricing, this has been something that we've been pondering like crazy. It was one of the biggest features of GRP. What drew people into it, it was a free-to-play shooter. Now, most people who got into the game ended up pouring money into it. But the aspect of free-to-play is what people got there. What got people there. Now, initially and currently, we put a straw poll on the website, and most people seem to be leaning towards free beta, free alpha, but the final game should cost $10. Now, I can see how that would be absolutely fine, but the initial game that we're marketing towards was free to play. Now, if we're going to charge $10 for a video game and it's going to be less polished, less crisp than a game that was free to play, I feel like we would be wasting our time. It just wouldn't seem right, in my opinion. The game might need to be free to attract the target audience. So, honestly, we might need to go the free-to-play route. Ideally, we would like to go the $10 per game or per copy. But personally, I'm thinking that we're going to need to go with the free-to-play route.
Pretty much have the same answer as Block. For the alpha portion of the game, you'll most likely have a select few of people to apply for the testing phase, and we are currently working on a peer-to-peer connection, but it does need work in areas.
At this moment we already set up peer-to-peer connection. It's fine for alpha version where we can check everything because it's free, but later, of course, like in every online game, needs servers. Renting them is easier at the beginning. We were players, now we are developers, so we know the players hate lagging. That's why servers should be in many regions. Then more people will be able to play, and that's our goal.
For the alpha stage of the game, we would have to have a very select few amount of people apply for the testing phases, and we were more than likely going to do a peer-to-peer connection sort of deal, but that needs a lot of work as it currently stands. We have actually managed to do a peer-to-peer connection via Steam, but it was extremely laggy due to the fact that it was a peer-to-peer connection. Now again, I'm not one of the coders or anything, but I'm not sure if this could be fixed with the coding or if it has to do with just the peer-to-peer connection. But ideally, we would like to go with a peer-to-peer connection. If need be, we're going to either have to run a server or not do an alpha, is what I'm getting at here. I would love to have an alpha, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We don't have a lot of money. We're not some major corporation like Ubisoft. Yeah, it would be nice to have the money, but again, we're just a bunch of guys trying to throw together a video game. But I guess that's where the Kickstarter and GoFundMe kick in whenever it starts up. But that again isn't till later. So ideally, we would like to be peer-to-peer for the alpha testing. Maybe we will get a server, but it would have to be rented for a very cheap price for a very limited amount of people.
I started work on this project because I wanted to give a nice smooth gameplay for the community, so in my opinion, if we will have a stable servers, we can easily pay for it, then I can say it was worth it. Of course, I would not have to afraid to close the game what I like it so much.
Best dream for me would be to have the game set up properly and have it fully completed to be more enjoyable and a better overall experience than GRP was. There will be difficult times along the way, but hey, life always knocks us down, but it is up to us to choose whether or not to fight back. In the development portion, we will do our best of our abilities to fix the problems that are in front of us.
My worst concern with Ubisoft turning to us for a copyright claim is not necessarily with the gameplay mechanics, but with the specifics like the devices, Blitz, ADS, all of that stuff is what I'm worried about. From my understanding, the creators of Ghost Recon, Ubisoft, they used a modified version of Unreal Engine to create the game. So us creating an exact copy of the game is physically impossible. It is absolutely impossible for us to create an exact copy of the game, which in a way works to our favor. That helps us avoid copyright issues. But it's still there. It is not necessarily an original idea. It is definitely based heavily around Ubisoft's Ghost Recon Phantoms, but we also make no secret of this. They were the people who shut the game down, and if they really didn't want to have anyone trying to make a game similar than it, they would just bring the servers back up or make the coding open source so we could take from it and modify it to our liking. But again, it's all kind of up in the air at this point. We're just rolling with the punches and seeing what we can do. Yeah, we do not want to run into copyright issues, but if it happens, it happens. It's going to be a big hurdle if it does. We're really hoping it doesn't, but again, what happens, happens.
Well, there are many similar gameplay mechanics. In the game business, we must keep the distance from the other company's ideas. I'm sure we can figure out new and fresh gameplay stuff, and our game can be another unique one.
My biggest dream for this game is to have it become more popular than GRP ever was. Have people enjoy playing more so than GRP. It's going to be difficult to do, absolutely, but if it happens, that would be a miracle. An absolute miracle. I'm not the oldest guy in the world, but I love playing video games, and DRP is what got me started on video games. So, if I could say I took part in making something that I enjoy playing and other people enjoy playing, it would be a dream come true for me. I would be beyond ecstatic.
Pretty much have the same answer as Block. It pretty much sums it up.